All the disrespect before you play back, button check. Button check.
What is up, Button Check family? Welcome back to yet again a beautiful day. It is the second episode of Buttons That Need to Be Checked. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed that first episode. It is definitely on the channel if you guys want to see that. We got another hot one, man. We got some possible, it's kind of like leaks, but it's more like guesstimations of like, okay, we think Capcom is dropping some crumbs here to where bigger content creators are starting to respond. Either way, let's unpack, enjoy, let's go. All right, now into the first set of buttons. These set of buttons, we talking about Street Fighter 6 Season 4 roster revealed, question mark, buttons that need to be checked. So Top Hat Gaming, man, he dropped this like 2 days ago. It's already doing numbers. A lot of people are trying to say like they actually know what the roster is going to be for Street Fighter 4. So we're going to check out some snippets of this and some discourse, even more than that, get a little deeper. We dropped a video earlier today when people, I guess, were doing an interview from somebody with Capcom saying we might actually have to wait until 2027. A whole nother year. I mean, we about to hit 26, but anyway, have to wait a whole nother year possibly for Street Fighter 6 to actually change, for it to get shooken up, to feel like we got something new. Now, we might get some new DLCs, obviously, in 26, but for the game to get that shakeup, that resurrection that everybody's waiting for, we might have to wait a whole nother year. Anyway, that's on the earlier video if you guys check that out. But now, we got people talking about the new DLCs. Let's get it.
Shocking, though, is that it doesn't merely acknowledge Dan's existence. It frames him as a key supporting character within the film structure, despite the story being built squarely around an event that, according to the games, he didn't participate in. Rather than being hidden away as a throwaway joke, the trailer positions him in direct proximity to the tournament's central figures, using him as a tonal counterweight to the stoicism, mysticism, and myth-building that defined the Street Fighter II era. The casting reinforces that intent. Dan Hibiki is played by Andrew Schultz. In typical Dan fashion, the casting has angered a sizable portion of the fanbase. For many, Andrew Schultz represents a very specific kind of modern internet comedy culture that feels at odds with how they want Street Fighter to be treated on film. There's a suspicion that casting a high-profile podcaster risks turning Dan into a meta-joke about Andrew Schultz playing Andrew Schultz, rather than a character grounded, even satirically, within the Street Fighter world. Some fans also see it as emblematic of a broader fear that the film is chasing podcast audiences and viral clips rather than respecting the internal tone of the franchise. In other words, the anxiety isn't really about Dan at all, but about whether Dan Hibiki is being used as a knowing parody of Street Fighter rather than a parody within it. The moustache has only poured petrol on that fire. Schultz's very recognisable facial hair immediately clashes with Dan's established look, which has traditionally leaned towards exaggerated anime masculinity rather than ironic Brooklyn stand-up cheek. Dan is supposed to be half Thai and half Japanese in the games, and Andrew Schultz looks like neither of those things. For pure...
Okay, so in a second, he's about to get to the DLC part, but I noticed a lot of people were kicking up a fuss for Andrew Schultz getting casted. Let's be real. A lot of people were saying, not just him, but a lot of the cast are like, this is a joke of a movie. This is worst cast ever. I've said multiple times that I see where they're trying to go, I think, but I think it's garbage. Like, I saw the trailer. A lot of people were like, oh, this is cool. It's going to be tongue-in-cheek, or they're going to lean into the goofiness. I get that, and I hope they do. But just going off the trailer, I was like, this is ass. Like, this looks fucking horrible, and they really don't got too good of a track record. I'm hoping for the best, though. Don't get me wrong. They're going to get my money. I'm going to be right there in the damn seat. I'm going to watch this, whether it's on fucking Netflix or I'm assuming it's going to be in the theater. I'm going to be there. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to hope for the best. And I learned even more just now, which I'll talk about in a second. But continuing on, a lot of people were like really pissed off with this mustache. Check this out.
Andrew Schultz, a man famous not for acting, martial arts, but for podcasting, an aggressively modern internet comedy that lives and dies on people recognising him rather than any character he's playing. Fans aren't mad because Dan is a joke character, they're mad because this feels like comedian stunt casting, where the gag is recognising the actor rather than the character. When Dan Hibiki stops looking like a delusional Street Fighter parody and starts looking like a YouTuber doing a sketch, the illusion collapses instantly. And of course, that moustache really doesn't help either. So, Andrew Schultz, good casting or bad? Comment below. That said, there's an interesting wrinkle here. Street Fighter 6 deliberately reimagined much of the cast with rougher, more grounded designs, facial hair included. Street Fighter 6's Dan concept art hasn't been revealed yet, but the game's broader aesthetic shift does leave the door open for a more unkempt, try-hard version of the character, someone desperately attempting to look like a serious fighter and failing at it. Holding Dan's movie role in mind, it makes it all the more viable to me that he will be part of Season 4 for Street Fighter 6. It's extremely likely because Dan Hibiki sits at the perfect intersection of popularity, practicality, and developer intent, in a way very few Street Fighter characters do. First, Dan is a low-cost, high-impact character from a development perspective. His moveset is intentionally simple, exaggerated, and largely derivative of existing Shoto animations. Historically, Capcom has always used Dan as a character who can be implemented efficiently while still feeling new to the roster. Deliberate with its foreshadowing in Street Fighter 6, seated in World Tour references, NPC dialogue, and visual cues that point toward future roster additions long before they're formally announced.
I would actually love to see Vega come back. I would. I'm a sucker for the original cast. I would love for Vega to come back.
These teases aren't accidental fan service, they're part of how Capcom manages long-term anticipation without overcommitting publicly. Vega aligns neatly with Street Fighter 6's obsession with self-image, ego, and spectacle, ideas that run through the game's cast from Luke to JP. When you combine those early Season 2 teases with the established one Street Fighter 2 boss per season pattern, as well as his prominent role in the next movie, it becomes harder to see Capcom not pulling that thread sooner rather than later. Alongside the other characters I've mentioned, Julie fits into this same predictive framework in a quieter but arguably more interesting way, because she represents the other consistent pattern in Street Fighter 6's DLC strategy. Every season has made a deliberate effort to maintain gender balance, even when the headline additions are legacy male characters. That matters here because once you account for another likely Street Fighter 2 era boss addition, Capcom has consistently paired those characters with women who expand the roster sideways rather than upwards in terms of raw power or narrative dominance. Like Dan, Julie is not a Street Fighter 2 character at all, and is significantly more obscure than most of the cast, which paradoxically makes her easier to reintroduce without upsetting established expectations.
So how you feeling about Julie? That's what I'm not expecting at all. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm gonna sound like a broken down record. I'm for the Street Fighter 4 cast. I know a lot of you are over that, but I want some Makoto. Shit, give me Armika. I just want to look at her. Bring back Armika, but I mean some Makoto, Ibuki.
Choosing the final Season 4 DLC slot is where the predictions stop feeling neat and start getting genuinely difficult. Unlike the other three positions, which line up cleanly with established patterns around bosses, legacy visibility, and film synergy, this last slot feels far more fluid. The only thing that really feels like a dead cert is that the character will be female, simply because every Street Fighter 6 DLC season so far has made a clear effort to maintain gender balance throughout. Breaking the pattern now would feel more surprising than following it. From here, however, the field opens up considerably. Junie could be a good shout, as she was Julie's counterpart within Shadaloo's Dull unit. Junie allows Capcom to expand on the lore. Junie has historically been portrayed as colder, more self-aware and more visibly conflicted about her role, which gives Street Fighter 6 fertile ground to explore two different outcomes.
I don't think so, because aren't they all very similar to Cammy? Like, I'm not too familiar with the whole moveset, but just from what I know, is like a lot of the moves are fairly from, like, I don't want a bunch of characters that fight. I mean, we got Ken and Ryu. Remember back in the day, that was the whole thing. Why we got two of the same characters? That's what we used to argue back in the arcade. Like, one's just red and one's white. But anyway, past that, I don't like how we just like keep adding characters that are super similar. I always hated that shit, whether they're male and female or all female, whatever. I just gets really stale really fast.
Why I don't think she fits Season 4. Sakura isn't a gap filler
Oh, yeah,
or supporting
give me
pick. She's
Sakura.
a
I'll take
headline
Sakura.
character, someone Capcom tends to deploy when they want to reignite attention rather than quietly round out a season. Dropping her into a lineup already anchored by returning bosses and film-adjacent characters would almost feel like a waste of her pool. Because of that, I can far more easily see Sakura being held back as the main event draw for Season 5, paired with someone like Balrog to create a deliberate high-contrast DLC wave. That kind of pairing also fits Capcom's longer-term cadence. Once the roster is truly settled, Sakura becomes less about filling a mechanical niche and more about celebration, a character whose return signals confidence that the game has legs.
Okay, well, how y'all feeling about that? I would still take Rog. I want Rog. Put Rog in the damn game. Here's the thing. If we get a crazy ass update, and let me know if you agree with or disagree. If we get like, okay, so far we got coming up, we already got Sagat, we got Viper, we still got Alex, and we got Ingrid on deck. But besides that, if we were to see some new DLC that just blew it out the water, do you think the community would be more willing to wait until 2027 for an actual shakeup, something mega to drop to be like Super Street Fighter 6 or Ultimate Street or whatever, the shakeup that everybody's been waiting for? Do you think then we would be more willing to be like, okay, we'll wait to see what y'all have been cooking? Because obviously it seems like they want to, since the 40th anniversary is not 26 but 27. And initially I thought Capcom didn't really have a hand in making the movie. I thought obviously they gave them their blessings and licensing, but I didn't think they were actually hands-on. But it seems like they were. Like when I look up some information, like pretty easily it says, yes, Capcom has significant influence as it is a joint financer and producer with Legendary Entertainment for the new Street Fighter movie releasing next year, actively using its single content, multiple usage strategy to boost the brand's value and ensure faithfulness to the game's lore and aesthetic, drawing from recent titles like Street Fighter 6. It's a joint production. So Capcom isn't just licensing, they're actually co-developing and co-financing the film with Legendary, working together on the project. The IP value, Capcom sees the adaptation as a key way to extend the Street Fighter brand beyond gaming, aiming to elevate the IP's global value. As far as like aesthetic and lore influence, the character designs and visual style put heavily from recent games with specific nods to Street Fighter 6 Dalsum Necklace and Street Fighter 4's Ryu and Akuma looks, and Street Fighter 2 and others like Gao and Blanca showing a commitment to the game's accuracy. So then I'm thinking, okay, Capcom is heavily involved in this film. Are they trying to drop some Easter eggs? It looks like it's gonna be goofy as hell. Matter of fact, when I eventually looked up like the producer, I guess they were supposed to have some others in mind, like a pair of brothers, I forgot their name, Philippou brothers, something like that, but they had a pass on it for another I guess movie that they were creating. Kitao Sakurai, he's the director of the upcoming Street Fighter 6 movie, and he's worked closely with Eric Andre. Matter of fact, he produced or directed Eric Andre's, it was like a prank / movie, and it was called Bad Trip. I actually saw some of it, and it was like comedy, but they were also doing like pranks to people in real time along with the story timeline. And it was produced and directed by Kitao Sakurai, who from what I understand has also worked on the Eric Andre show. Eric Andre is also in Street Fighter 6, so you can already see the goofiness is there.
I'm Eric Andre.
I'm Kitao Sakurai.
And this is the Breakdown.
So there you have it, Butt Check fam. How was you feeling? Everybody was talking about, the positive reviews I saw in the movie, talking about, we hope that they lean into the goofiness, and they just like, you know what, Street Fighter movie, always been kind of odd, always been kind of funny-ish without trying to be funny, and goofy. So we hope they lean into all of that. And then when we saw the preview, a lot of people said, yes, we like it. It looks like they're going to lean into it. Other people like myself said it was trash. It was going to be a dumpster fire. We don't know what they're trying to do with this, or we hope it goes well, right? So obviously you could see from all of this, it does look 100% like they are leaning into the goofiness, and it's going to be a fucking circus. Now, it still might be good. Shit, this might be a future cult favorite. You know what I'm saying? This might be a banger. And look, I know we talking shit in it looks how it looks, but I really do. I'm a Street Fighter head. I'm a Capcom head. I love the series. If it was not for Street Fighter, I probably wouldn't even be FGC. You know, that's what got me in here in the first place. So all in all, I wanted to do good. A lot of the cast, even though I think it's wonky casting in a lot of directions, I think they're talented actors. Like when they do their solo projects, I'm a fan. So all in all, I hope somehow, some way they're able to pull this out of their ass and make it work. Now, as far as the DLC predictions, how are you feeling about that? Since Capcom was so heavily involved and they're talking about these breadcrumbs or how they're featured, how big of a chance do you think these names are to be featured in upcoming DLC for Street Fighter 6? I don't know. I hope for Dan, if I'm going off of this, I hope for Vega. Didn't really point to Rock, but I hope for Rock as well. Now, the other three women that kind of look and move the same way, I'm sure some of you are like, no, that would be fire, like we need them in there. Hey, remains to be seen. But for right now, I'm seeming like a complete dinosaur in an old head, but I'm still missing Street Fighter 4 cast. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever be over that. So either way, Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for everything. I will see you tomorrow with at least one video tomorrow night. And as always, I don't know what it is, but I know somehow, some way, it's about to get better. Love y'all forever. Peace.
Blah, blah, blah. Subscribe.